Hello and welcome to Jolineknitsalot. This is my show about knitting and crafting and the things I get up to here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. How are you? We are having a sunny day today, but it was snowing earlier this week. Let me show you some footage of that right here. In keeping with the tradition, I guess, that it's snow every time I go to record a podcast. I am optimistic that we won't get any more snow this spring. It is the beginning of May now, but I guess anything's possible. We've had snow later in the year for sure. So I'm going to be optimistic and I'm going to just go ahead and enjoy the beautiful sunny day we have today. I'm wearing my Marseille sweater. This is a sweater by Petite Knit. It has horizontal stripes, which I love, and it is a little bit chilly still in the mornings here and in the evenings, so I'm just cozying up this morning with my sweater. How have things been for you in the last couple weeks? Since the last time we spoke, we've had or celebrated Local Yarn Store Day, and I certainly celebrated. Did you? Did you manage to get out to some local yarn stores in your area, or did you frequent some online? Here in the Edmonton area, we have 7 local yarn stores. There's one in Stony Plain, one in St. Albert, one in Sherwood Park, and one in Leduc. Those are all communities that are around Edmonton. And if you were to drive there from Edmonton, it would take about a half an hour or less. So that's 4. And then within Edmonton, we have 3 local yarn stores within the Edmonton city limits. So we're very lucky to have so many wonderful stores that carry a variety of things and each different from the others. On Local Yarn Store Day or weekend, here in Edmonton we had a 3-day local yarn store weekend. On a Friday I managed to get to Fiber Nook, which is definitely my local yarn store. I probably frequent them the most. They're the closest to me and I sometimes teach there, so it has a special place in my heart. And then on Saturday, I took part in something called the Yarn Rebels VIP Yarn Tour. And I was lucky enough to be asked to help host it. So I was a part of the tour. Hi, bud. We met at Statement Junkie in Sherwood Park in the morning, where we had coffee and snacks like muffins and croissants and treats. And then we hopped on a school bus and we went to a yarn store called the Little Blue Fiber Studio, which I had never been to before. They carry a lot of supplies for spinning, but also other yarny crafts. So things like needle felting, embroidery. What other crafts did I see there? I think they also do punch needle, and then they do carry an assortment of yarns. So when 20-some crafters hop off a school bus and invade your store, it's quite a thing. And each store was so kind and welcoming to all of us when we came. After Little Blue Fiber Studio, we went to a local shop called New Mana. New Mana is a fiber artist here in Edmonton. She dyes yarn and she's quite involved with many of the yarn festivals. So I'm just petting my dog's head because he wants some attention, and if I just keep petting him, he won't bark so much. So anyway, sorry, back to New Mana. She does hand-dyed yarns and she carries a wide variety of bases. And she's often a supporter, sponsor of many of the yarn festivals in and around Edmonton. And then she also attends and sells yarn there. She has currently quite a large setup. She has a front store, and in the back where she does a lot of her dyeing, she has space to have pop-ups. So on Local Yarn Store Day, she had a pop-up with some other local sort of relatively local yarn dyers and crafters. So she had Ginger Snap, Flock Fiber, Cindy Marie Creates, Smiling Sheep Yarns, and I think another one that I'm forgetting at this time, but I will pop it right here. And so a large variety of hand dyers and hand dyed yarns were available. After New Mana, we went for lunch at Omen Brewery, which is a local brewery. They've got a little taco shop in the back, so we had tacos and beer. And then after that, we went to Yarn Divas, which is a yarn store in St. Albert, which is, again, quite close to Edmonton. They have quite a variety of locally hand-dyed yarns. They carry Rauma phenol garn and other Rauma bases. And then they also dye their own yarns. So that was a really great stop in St. Albert. And then after that, we went back to Statement Junkie to wrap up our day. So it was a busy day. I was quite tired by the time we wrapped up. It was a busy day. But let me show you some of the things I got. At Fiber Nook on the Friday, I popped in and they were selling these bags. You could get them at every stop on our tour. So this was the Spring Fling local yarn shop crawl. And it was on April 27th, 2024. And I got this cute little bag, which is great. A lot of crafters had them. It's just nice to have a tote that you can throw all your things in. So while at Fiber Nook, I picked up some shorty needles. Now, I have a little bit of a haul to share with you, partly because on Local Yarn Store Day, I wanted to support all of my local yarn stores. We're so fortunate to have so many of them in the Edmonton area, and I wanted to try and support each of them as I could. So at the Fiber Nook, I picked up these Chalgu Twist shorties, which I've never used before. They have a 2-inch needle. I promise you there are 2 of them, and a 3-inch needle tip. This is a 2.5 millimeter set, and it comes with 2 cable lengths so that you can make from a 9-inch circular to a 12-inch circular. And part of the reason I bought this, I don't think you're going to be too surprised, is that Summer Lee, my sock knitting influencer, suggested that she uses these when she knits colorwork socks. So because I have got, oh my goodness, what's going on with my hair right there? Because I've got Summer Lee socks on the brain, I decided to give these a shot for colorwork socks. And my plan is to do as she does, to have a 2-inch needle on one side and a 3-inch on the other side, so that it becomes, I think, something like a 10-inch circular for while I'm knitting colorwork, just to give it a little bit more space. I'll see how it goes. I've never done this before, but I thought it was worth a try. Let me know. Have you ever used these? And if you use them, do you use them for knitting socks? And if you use them for knitting socks, do you use them for all of your socks, or do you just use them for specific things? My plan is just to use this for color work. I guess I'll see how I like it. I have some plans for some color work socks. I'll talk about those a little later. So that's what I got at Fiber Nook. The next stop, the first stop on the yarn crawl was Little Blue Fiber Studio, and they had these in stock. So I got one for my friend Blue. It's a cross-stitch dog collar. So you see you can put your dog's name on, and then there are a number of different little patterns you can do on the back. Well, I'm sure they're inside too, but there's hearts, there's little doggies. I really like this fire hydrant. I think it's funny. There's a little paw. So I'm going to be giving this a try. I did measure it out to make sure that it would fit my friend, because he's not a very tall dog, but he is sturdy, and there's a lot of fluff and stuff going on, especially around his neck. So I wanted to make sure it would fit, and it should. So I look forward to giving this a try. I think this will be a relatively quick project because I'm just going to be making his name and a little bit of something on it. I'm not going to fully cross stitch the whole thing. I think that might be a bit much. But yeah. It also has reflective thread, which is safe in the dark. So on the collar itself. So I look forward to giving that a try. And I picked up at Little Blue Fiber Studio. Our next stop was Numana. And at Numana, I had some plans because I know that my family and I will be traveling this summer. So I wanted to get some of these, which are little soak individual sachets or packets with a little bit of soak inside. So for doing laundry on the go, I thought that would be handy. This is a pack of, I think, 10? Possibly 8, 2, 4, 8. Maybe not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? I don't know. There's a bunch of sachets in here of different flavors, so I thought it would be both a good chance for me to try the different flavors, but also to have some little laundry soap that I can take on the go. And then with my purchase, I also got an extra sachet. This is the gentle laundry soap one. So I thought that would be very handy to have. And then also at Numana, I picked up a skein of this beautiful speckled sock yarn. I'm still on a summerly kick, and I thought that this pretty speckled yarn would make really nice socks that I could either knit single, or I could hold double and make like a DK weight for a pair of DK socks for myself. This yarn is their Barbary base. It is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. And this is called Paintball Fight. Paintball Fight Peach. I just think it's quite pretty. So I picked that up at Numana, and there's her label. I didn't get anything at lunch that I can share with you today, but then we went on to Yarn Divas. And again, Yarn Divas does have quite a large selection of interesting yarns, a lot of local dyers and their own dyeing. And since I'm trying to not add to my stash too terribly much, I picked up some soak, a big jar, because I don't know about you, but I use wool wash a lot. Every week, particularly in the winter, I'm washing socks because I wear my hand knit socks all the time. And when I wash my socks, I just grab a bunch of them, fill up my sink with warm water and some laundry soap, either Eucalan or soak, and I just let them sit for a long time, and then I hang them up. I also use soak when I'm blocking my knits. So I just thought I'd pick some up. I got the yuzu scent. There it is, which is a very citrusy scent. So I picked up some yarn wash. But I forgot to mention that while we were at Yarn Divas, they also had a pop-up. So they had Studio Brita and butternut buttons. Is that right? They also had two dyers. I'm going to put their names here too. So they also had a pop-up, which is great. It's so nice to see local, to actually meet local crafters, and on a local yarn store day, it just seems like a nice day to do that. And then finally, when I came back around to Statement Junkie at the end of the day, I picked up some DPNs, which turns out I didn't have. These are 3.25 millimeter needles, Chaogu. I got these are just stainless steel. I really like these ones for knitting socks, and I discovered that while I was knitting some DK weight socks this week, I didn't have any 3.25 millimeter needles, which is the size I like to use for DK socks, so I picked that up. And those are all of my purchases from local yarn store day. I think I did pretty well. I got some things. I had made a list of things that I wanted to pick up and things that I needed, like the needles and the wash. I look forward to trying out this base, but again, I'm trying very hard to be thoughtful about the yarn purchases that I make, so that they're things that I'm going to be using and not things that are just going into stash without sort of at least some semblance of a plan. And because I'm knitting so many socks this year from Summerlee's book, I thought this would make a great addition. And I realized that I can knit it single as a plain, like a fingering weight sock, or I could hold it double to make some DK socks. So I thought that was very useful. Did you support your local, were you able to support your local yarn store day and go and have a visit with them? I'd like to remind you that buying things at your local yarn store is not the only way to support your local businesses. I know that sometimes it can be hard when you feel like you'd like to support, but maybe it's not in the budget right now, or you're kind of saving up for a bigger purchase, or maybe it's just not the right time for you to just go on a spending spree, and that's okay. Sharing your local yarn store with friends who are crafters, supporting them on their social media feeds, those are all great ways of supporting businesses without actually having to go and spend money every time you want to support them. So just a reminder, you don't always have to be buying things to support your local businesses. Okay, so that was local yarn store day, and I had a great time. If you want to see some footage of us on the bus or the various stores we went to, there is a video on my channel, and I'll link to that in the show notes below. Now, what have I been knitting? The first thing I finished off my needles in the last couple of weeks was a pair of DK socks. Now you may remember these. I had started knitting them, foolishly showed them to my daughter and she suggested I make them for her but a little longer. Well, she didn't suggest that. She just said, oh, I like my socks to be longer, but she does like a nice gushy sock. So these are my not so shorty DK socks. I used the pattern from the Sock Project Summerlee's book. In fact, here, let me just go ahead and flash that to you. Take off my sticky note. This is the book that I keep talking about in case you're wondering. I've been knitting a lot from it. This pattern is definitely in this book. Now, Summer's pattern is for a shorty sock, which I still want to make for myself, which is partly why I bought that speckled yarn from Numana, because I thought, well, if I hold it double, that can be for me. These socks are knit using some Ginger Snap. I think it's called Squish DK. It is a DK weight yarn that is got superwash merino and nylon in it. So these are going to be some strong socks. And I used a mini that I picked up at Polka Dot Creek. This was a single, just a mini, 20 gram, called Purple Pop in her sock base that I held double. And so that's why I could use it with the DK, and actually it works really, really well. These socks have, I made a longer cuff, so I tried to be a bit generous with the ribbing. They've got a German short row heel. Now, I don't know if this is a heel that I'm going to be using a lot in the future. I don't hate it, but I don't know if I love it. It just seems prone to gapping. And when I use the butterfly heel from KF Jones of the Bakery Bears, it seems to give me a nice kind of firmer join here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm not convinced. If you use and love the German short row heel, leave me a comment in the show notes below, but I'm not convinced I'm going to be using it again. I did follow her pattern. I used the German short row heel, and then I just did a toe. These are all very standard and nothing too sort of out of the ordinary. I think if I were to make myself a pair, I might just swap in a different heel. But these are definitely some really sort of gushy and cozy socks. And my daughter said, oh, they have, when I showed them to her, she goes, oh, they have twinkle toes. Yes, they do. So, I mean, these are, you probably don't even need a pattern for them. I am trying to work through a bunch of Summer's designs and try some of the things that she suggests. So that was part of why I tried this pattern with the German short row heel. I think if I were to knit them again, I would just use a different heel. But oh, I can't recommend the yarn enough. It is so soft and gushy. I really like it. And then I cast on another pair of socks by Summer Lee because, you know, I'm a little bit obsessed. And these socks are called the Seaffar Socks. Now, Summer's book is divided up by, I guess, sort of style. She's got some socks, some plain socks with different techniques. She has socks with knit and purl patterns. She has stripy socks, ribbed socks, colorwork socks, and cabled socks. So, oh my goodness, those are bright. These are the Seaffar socks. They're, I think, the last pattern in the book. And they feature this beautiful ropey cable design. I can't believe how bright these are. I used some leftover yarn that I had from my stash. It was from when I made the Stephen West mystery socks last summer. And this was my contrast color. So I had quite a bit left over. And these socks took I measured them, 55 grams of yarn. This is the Leo and Roxy sock yarn. I believe it's an 80%, 20%, 80% wool, 20% nylon, because it is quite a beefy sock base. And this is the colorway called Password, and they really are that bright. But they're just some little shorty cabled socks, very cute, off my needles. And that's all the Summer Lee patterns I have for this episode. But do look forward to more Summerly socks in the future. Oh, I'm sorry, I just nudged you. So those are the socks that I have off my needles. The next thing I started was just something kind of small. I have a lot of small things this week. The last time I showed you my Florence bag, which I got to test out on local yarn store day, and I can say that quite happily that it is great. I like that I can fit quite a few things in it. I could fit my wallet, a phone, some keys, some lip gloss, and a knitted project if I like. And I'm quite happy with the strap. It's not super long, but it's long enough for me to wear crossbody, which is how I prefer to carry my bags. And then, so that was last week's project. And then this week, I used some of the leftover yarn to make the little purse that goes with it. Now this is the same knitted pattern with that. You can see those diagonal lines. I purchased the zipper from Petite Knit as well, and then also the lining, which goes inside. So these two, the lining and the zipper, both came from Petite Knit's shop, and I just think that it's a really lovely little set. Here, if I show you this, you can see they've got the same zippers, just in different lengths with the same tabs. The lining is the same fabric. And now I can use this little pouch inside the purse if I like for a little, I don't know what. So it's a great set. And the pattern for the Florence purse also contains the pattern for the pouch. I made the smaller pouch, or purse, I think she calls it. She calls this the bag and this the purse. The purse, I made the smaller one. There is a larger version of this. When it comes to the bag, I made the larger bag. There's also a smaller version, and the pattern you pay for once. It contains all of those things in it. So there's another thing off my needles. Honestly, the knitting of this was so quick. It was really super fast. Because you're using a fingering weight yarn, I used Sandnes Garn Tin Lena, which is a fingering weight yarn. It's got cotton, viscose, and linen in it. And it's, this one I have blocked. This one I have not. But each of them are soft. It's a really nice drapey fabric. And so I would recommend it. I see lots of people knitting summer tops out of this yarn. These two projects used 2 balls of yarn. I bought 3 because I wasn't sure, but I do have about 50 grams left over, and I'm thinking that I might use them to make just a market bag or something with my leftovers, because I think that would be a good use of them. But I would recommend the yarn. It's very affordable. I think I paid $8 a ball, which isn't too bad. And I could have made both purses out of 2 balls. Also, if you're a sewist and you can make your own lining, you can easily make them. The pattern includes instructions for those, and it doesn't require that much fabric. So that's my Florence, I guess, collection. And then what else do I have? It's been a sort of multi-craftual sort of couple of weeks. That was my knitting. I have done a little bit of cross stitch. Some of you may remember I've been working on this murder mystery series. This is a sort of ongoing project by Diana Waters, who is a cross-stitch designer out of Ontario, Canada. And the last room that I finished, the way that this mystery works is that there are 5 rooms. Each room indicates the answer to one of 5 questions: who, what, where, when, and why. Who, what, where, when, why? There might be a how in there instead of why. I'm not sure. I guess that's part of the mystery. Anyway, I've completed 2 of the rooms. The second room I finished was Davy's Den, which looks like this. This was a fun cross-stitch project. My only comment is that this dark green fabric was a little tricky for me. I used my neck light because, boy, seeing some of the holes in this fabric was a little tricky for me. But there's Davy's Den, and then this past week I worked on Davy. So there's her portrait. Now, again, one comment I have is that her glasses, which are sort of this gold color, don't really stand up too well. When I got the kit, the kits for the portraits are quite small, obviously, because it's just a little 3-inch hoop. It's got a little cross stitch pattern, but it's not a very big pattern because the project is not very big. And then it's got all of the yarns. And one of the yarns that I needed, the skin color, was not correct. They sent me like a bright aqua color, and it should have been this sort of taupey color. So I just contacted Diana Waters' company through Etsy, which is where I purchased this kit, and she mailed me the color I needed, and I had it within a few days. So customer service was very good. They were very quick and just sent it out to me. So that's Davy, and this is her den. So that's the second sort of pairing. And now in the next week or two, I'm going to start the third room, which I think is a greenhouse. And it's made on some really lovely light blue fabric, which I'm hoping will be a little bit easier on my eyeballs. I do have the portrait for that one too. And then after that, I'm going to have to order the next sets as they come out. They're not all out yet. There are currently 4 rooms out and only 3 portraits. So I have the first 3 rooms and the first 3 portraits. So I can be working on those for the next little while. And then as they come out, I'll just keep adding to my collection. And then I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to sort of put them up on the wall just over there in a pleasing way. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. Maybe something like this. Because these little ones sort of, I want them to look like they belong with the room. But arranging 5 sets of larger ones with their little one might be tricky. So maybe something like this. And then have them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. I'll let you know when I figure that out. But anyway, again, I think that the clue for this one is here in these candle holders. So you can see 1 and 2 candles, and this candle doesn't have a candle holder. Very suspicious. So I think that maybe that might be the murder weapon. I will keep you informed of my progress in this mystery. Whoops, that's Davy. That's how I finished the back, if you're curious. I just wrote her name on there and the year. I just used a Sharpie, nothing fancy. This one says Davy's number 2, so that I remember what room it is, and Davy's den, 2024. And then maybe when I have it all solved, I might write on the back what the clue was, so that I don't forget. But that's number 2. And that was the little bit of cross stitch I did. Those little portraits are so quick and enjoyable to work up. Honestly, very fast. And speaking of fast projects, I have another quick thing that I just whipped up the other day. This is a kit that I purchased. When did I purchase it? I've had it for a while. I think I maybe got it at the Gathering Threads Festival last year or before that. This is a kit for a crochet basket that I purchased from Her Leather Co. Now, there's her business right there. Her Leather Co. Is a relatively local to me maker. She makes all sorts of leather bags, project bags, and accessories for crafters. And she had at one time these kits for making a crochet bowl. Now, I don't think she carries this yarn anymore. This is like a t-shirt yarn. And I'm not sure that she carries the yarn anymore, but she definitely carries the bases because I did see them on her website. So if you're interested in making something like this, you can find these leather bases on her website, Her Leather Co. And I will include a link in the show notes below. The inside, I'm not sure if you can see that, it's suede on the inside, and I put the more leathery bit on the outside. And then I just followed her instructions. She gave instructions in the kit, and she also had a video on how to do it. It's just single crochet worked from the inside. So I was working with the inside facing me, and this is what the outside looks like. It's a little bit wobbly, and I have maybe 2 reasons for that. Partly it's because I'm not a very experienced crocheter, and partly Well, so that's one. Number two, I think the yarn got a little bit thicker. So I think down here it was slightly thinner, and then when I got to here, I think that the yarn was a little bit thicker. And then finally, the pattern suggested you use a 6mm hook for this first round, and then after that switch to an 8mm hook. Now I didn't have an 8mm hook, so I tried a 9mm hook, which was another size that I had, and that was too loose. So then I switched to my next biggest needle, which was a 6.5mm hook. So it is quite a dense and firm basket. Like this thing it's firm, which actually I kind of like. It stands up very nicely on its own. Like this thing isn't going anywhere. It's very firm. And I think I'm going to be using it to hold just some little, like I have all of these little ends of balls, which are maybe 10 grams or less, but they might be useful for something like toes or color work. And I have quite a few of them, as you can see, just randomly pulling them out of my drawer. Here's some of that stuff. Remember that? Oh, that's a DK one. So I have a nice little collection of little balls that might go nicely in there. So we'll see. I'm not sure if that's where I'll keep those or not, but it's a great basket and I'm sure I'll find a use for it. Again, the bases are from Her Leather Co. And she does have a variety of sizes. This is the 5-inch size. But I think she has everything from 3-inch to 9-inch. And you can also get sets. So if you're interested, I could see making these as gifts. This did not take me very long at all. Like I made this in an afternoon, I would say. So there's something for you to think about. Her Leather Co. is also often at local to me yarny events, so she is quite accessible for me. And she's got a great online store if you'd like to order. That's all my finished objects this week. I think we can agree that was quite a few. The next thing I've been working on is my Flipside Tee. This is a pattern by Tanis Lavallee from Tanis Fiber Arts, and it's just a simple top-down t-shirt. She offers it, she shows two versions on her website. One is stripy and one is a solid color, and I'm just making mine in a solid color. I'm using Ritual Dyes yarn Undine in the natural color. This is what it's looking like so far. Undine is a cotton and linen blend. Now, when I was knitting this, it's knit from the top down, and then you pick up stitches and knit the ribbing back up. So I knit the whole first ball of yarn. I just went for it. And then when I had finished the first ball of yarn, and before I added the second ball, I went back and I did the sleeves, which are essentially just picking up stitches and ribbing. So there's one sleeve and the other sleeve. And then I did the neckline, which again is picking up sleeves and binding off. This sweater features an Italian sewn bind off, which again is my favorite, such a clean finish and stretchy, but gives a little bit of structure. And then I just attached to the bottom and I'm knitting my way down the body. But what I did want to show you was early on in the process, when I was knitting from the top down, I cast on my stitches and I was knitting, there were some short rows, and the fabric, as you can see down here, is looking, maybe here I can show you a sleeve. It's just looking kind of like a loose fabric. So I wanted to make sure that I had the right needle gauge and everything was going okay. So I just blocked a little bit of what was on the needles, not necessarily for gauge, but because I wanted to see how this fabric would block out. So here, if I show you here, I think you can see where I blocked, where I wet the fabric, and then where I just continued knitting. So you can see from here to here, this section here, look how much more even the stitches are and how fuller, is that the word I want? It just seems like a more cohesive fabric. So you can see from here to here, my stitches are much more even, and then from here down, they just get a little bit looser. So when I block the whole thing, it will be much more like this fabric, which I think I will be much happier with. Not that I dislike this look, but I think that having a more even and filled in fabric is sort of what I'm looking for this t-shirt, with the lacy details down the raglan and then down the side of the sweater. I'm hoping that this is something that I can wear to work or just wear sort of around. And given the cotton and linen, it should be very washable. So that is my Flipside Tee. That's a tee, again, patterned by Jolineknitsalot. I do have my May sock yarn. This sock yarn is from Knitspin Farms. It's part of my monthly knitting surprise bag, I guess. And every month at the beginning of the month, I pull out a yarn that I stashed away at the beginning of the year for a pair of socks to knit. This is some Targhee Sport. And this, again, is from Knitspin Farms, and it's called the Super Bloom colorway. And it, I guess, is based on the phenomenon where in deserts, for every so many years, there will be a big bloom of flowers that have been long dormant. So the seeds, for whatever reason, maybe it's too dry, maybe the conditions just aren't right, it could be too hot, but the seeds lay dormant until conditions are sort of perfect, and then there will be a massive bloom of desert flowers. And so that's what this is based on. It did come with a mini, and I will probably just use this for heels and toes. So I'll be casting these on to be taking to a soccer tournament or volleyball tournament this weekend. May is going to be full of tournaments, soccer or volleyball, so I have plenty of knitting time, and it's nice for me to have something very plain on the needle so that I can just knit away and watch whatever sport is happening in front of me. Now, to wrap up this show, I wanted to say thank you all to you for commenting on my last video, for liking my video, for following my channel. All of those little engagements mean a lot to me and help my little channel to grow. So every time you hit like, or if you subscribe, or if you make a little comment on my videos, it does mean a lot to me. And so many of you had very kind comments for me, for my knitting, for my new tattoo. So I thank you, all of you, for being here and for your kind comments and your support. I had a little something to give away. This was a gift from Ginger Snap, who is a dyer out of Calgary. They're super supportive, an amazing couple. I don't know if you know this, but Mr. Snap That, this gentleman right here, he doesn't really look like that in person. He does all the dyeing. So he is the dyer behind Ginger Snap yarn, and this little lady right here, Mrs. Snap That, Mrs. Ginger Snap, this little lady here does a bunch of sewing. So she makes project bags and various other, like a variety of different project bags, and the two of them put together kits, and they're so busy. I was speaking to them on local yarn store day, and they have a bunch of pop-ups on their way to Knit City in Toronto, where they are a sponsor and will be vending. They're just a very busy couple, but they're also super supportive, as I said, and always present at a lot of different events. So it was really great to see them on the weekend. And I have this little sock kit, which is called You Prickle My Fancy. It was the Rose City signature color set, and I'm going to be giving this away. So I did do a random number generator. I randomly chose a comment from the comments on my last video, and the winner of this skein of yarn, or this sock set, is right here. So if you see your name on the screen, please feel free to email me. My contact information, as always, is in the show notes below. If you'd like to contact or email me specifically, that would be great, and I will get this sock set out to you. If you want to email me about anything else, some projects that I'm knitting or questions that you have, please feel free to reach out at any time. I'm also going to leave a comment on your comment from the previous video, letting you know that you are a winner. So congratulations. I can't wait to hear what you make out of this beautiful sock set. And until next time, I hope in the next couple of weeks, you find time to do the things that you like to do. I know I plan on knitting a lot. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.